Join me as we talk about the importance of paying the price and how it made a difference in one life, my own. Hi, this is Terry, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode here with my achievement update and getting a chance to show you how to live life. And in this one, it's a little bit different. It's a special interview that I had, an audio interview with my friend Stephen Woessner. I got a chance to meet him through a mutual friend, Wendy Keller. Thank you, Wendy, for the introduction. And I was on his podcast called Onward Nation. We talked about a lot of things in life, what you do, and one of the things we talked about was the importance of being willing to pay the price. And he was such a great guy. I opened up and I was able to talk about a very sensitive, very personal issue that happened to me that I was quite secretive about for a long time. And now I feel comfortable to share that with you, that it can help you to accomplish those tasks that you have. And sometimes when you feel like just giving up and you don't want to do it, this is something that helped me. Now, you can listen to it and learn from it, learn the principles of what I went through, the magnitude of the tragedy that could have happened, and what I did to overcome it, and the good that happened as a result of it too. And I say all of these things on here to say these are the principles that work. I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment below here on whatever tool you're listening to on this, whatever platform it might be. Please leave a comment, because this is a message we want to get out to the world and help others. I will look forward to hearing from you. And of course, you can drop me an email also, terry@terrybrock.com. I mentioned that on the audio. You'll hear it, but you'll see that as well. So I look forward to hearing from you. Let's get into the interview with Stephen Woessner and his podcast, Onward Nation.
Good morning, Onward Nation. I am Stephen Woessner, and welcome to episode 358, where 5 days a week I interview one of today's top business owners so we can learn their recipe for success, how they built and scaled their business. In fact, our 12 Success Strategies ebook is a compilation of the best business building advice shared by our guests. Just go to onwardnation.com/12 download to get yours. That's onwardnation.com/12 download. Now let's welcome today's guest, Terry Brock. Terry is someone who solves problems. He works with organizations to build relationships with customers, suppliers, employees, and other stakeholders. His relationship marketing emphasis shows how to leverage the power of technologies like video, social media, and other tools to achieve bottom line results. When Skype needed a new chief enterprise blogger to help with their social media and blogging, they hired Terry. When AT&T needed a new editor-in-chief for their award-winning and biggest blog, they hired Terry. He worked with a team of over 100 geniuses to help generate over $2 billion in sales during his tenure. He's also the co-author of the best-selling book, Clout Matters, and a syndicated columnist. Welcome to Onward Nation, Terry.
Stephen, it is an honor and great to be with you.
Well, I feel the exact same way. It is an honor and it is great to have you here, sir. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your compressed schedule. But even with that impressive bio and introduction in your experience and past and so forth, you know, I've only given Onward Nation pretty thin slice here, Terry. So take us behind the green curtain. Tell us more about you and your path and your business, and then we'll dive in with the questions.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for that kind introduction. I'm a guy that likes to achieve and to help others achieve their success. I find, it's kind of interesting, Stephen. The way we get ahead in life is different than we would think naturally. Naturally, we take care of ourselves. We only breathe for ourselves. We only eat for ourselves, unless you're pregnant. You only sleep for yourself. But the way we get ahead is by caring for others. And the more we care about and help others in a profoundly beneficial way for them, the better off it is for us. So that's what I like to do in the work I do as a syndicated columnist and a professional speaker, bouncing around the planet and having a lot of fun. Actually, it's kind of fun. I get paid now for what I used to get sent to the principal's office for. It's cool. What do you do now, Terry? Well, I am a speaker. Really? Yeah, that's what they sent me to the principal's office for. Too much of that. And it's kind of fun now. But I like being with people around the world and find that it's wonderful as we can create magic and we can create results for others. We do better ourselves.
So even at an early age, you had career aspirations, is what you're saying then.
Something like that, yeah. I was out doing that, and I even actually was writing for a little newspaper. I'm sure you heard of it, the Bus 2 Express. That was there on second grade. Actually, we'd write little pieces for that, and I enjoyed it in second grade. But then went on through high school, working in newspapers, and actually, I was working for a community newspaper when I was a junior in high school, and I did a story on a local senator that was in the state capitol, and a state senator. They liked what I did at the paper, and they sent me to Washington, D.C., and I covered
Wow.
Richard Nixon's inauguration. So I'll give you a little idea of the age there. But it was kind of fun to see that as a 16-year-old and go, ooh, my goodness, this is quite different here.
Okay, so all joking aside, pretty cool opportunity for a 16-year-old.
Yeah, it was. And it was a real eye opener, too, because I grew up. You're over in Wisconsin, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah, in Wisconsin. I'm just hop on I-94, turn left, and go over toward Michigan. And a little town called Jackson is where I was born and raised, and grew up there. But going to Washington D.C. was a real eye opener for me because I remember at the time this was it was 73. It was January 20th, of course, in 73. Very very cold day in Washington D.C. even for this kid from Michigan. And I remember the protesters tore down all 50 flags around the Washington Monument and were starting to burn them. Then they were starting to break glass, and they hoisted the North Vietnamese flags. They had 50 of them and put them up there. Well, the police didn't care for that, so they came in, and every one of those police officers was 10 foot tall. At least they looked that big, and they were on horses that were monumental. And so I learned a lot about what was really going on in our nation at that time in history. And I remember some of the chants of Nixon, Agnew, you can't hide. We judge you with genocide. And I thought,
Oh my
ooh, this is
gosh.
really interesting. So I started learning about that and then went on in undergrad school with a major in radio, television, newspaper, worked in advertising, and then went back for my MBA later and got a chance to learn about this thing called business and how making a money is a good thing. So I've had fun doing that and working in a variety of different capacities.
Well, I am so grateful that our mutual friend Wendy Keller was kind enough to make the introduction so that you and
Yes.
I could have this great conversation. And so let's dive in. I like to call this first section, Terry, focus and preparation. Preparation because it's so true that greatness is available to all of us if we're willing to do the common things uncommonly well, which is a powerful lesson that I learned from one of my mentors, Don Yeager. So,
hmm
Terry, start us off with a secret. Maybe you prefer to call it a time-saving technique. Is there something you can share with us that helps you focus and prepare to tackle your most vital priorities each day?
Do we have like 500 years to cover this answer? That would be good. There's a lot of things. I was thinking, okay, what can I say that would be really helpful in that? First of all, you got to be have the right mindset, and to set that mindset. I was thinking, want to share with you, matter of fact, a story, true story that I was speaking in Wisconsin a while back for a particular group there, and they were over in Appleton, Wisconsin.
Hmm.
That's over
Yeah.
near Green Bay, and apparently there's a football team over there that people get excited about, I guess.
Occasionally.
And occasionally, yeah, they do, particularly up in Wisconsin. But they said, okay, Terry, we were putting everything together. And I was getting on the plane for tomorrow, and I'm going to be there. And they said, we've decided we're going to have a football theme, and we're going to have it at this restaurant here, the Vince Lombardi restaurant. I thought, oh, okay, well, that's kind of nice. And go football theme. They'll have different paraphernalia and things there. And I thought, well, that'll be good. And so everything was okay. I said, great, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. Hung up. And then I got to thinking, wait a minute. I know a guy named Vince Lombardi. Literally, Vince
Hmm.
Lombardi, who is Vince Lombardi, the coach's son. At the time, he was a member of the National Speakers Association. And I thought, maybe I ought to give him a call. He was over in Seattle at that time. And I thought, no, I wouldn't. He wouldn't want to talk to me. Well, wait a minute. Yes, he might. No, 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 he wouldn't. I don't want to bother. Oh, no, no, maybe I should. You know how you go back and forth that in your mind?
Hmm.
Well, I thought, just do it, Terry. So I picked up the phone, called him, and sure enough, he answered directly himself. And I said, Vince, hi, this is Terry Brock calling. Oh, Vince, hi, Terry, how you doing today? I said, great, great. And he said, I hope you're doing well and everything. And I said, by the way, I'm going to be speaking over in Wisconsin, over at such and such place. He goes, oh, really? Well, I hope you visit my restaurant, the Vince Lombardi restaurant. I go, that's exactly where we're going to be. And I said, I want to be able to share something with the people from you. And he said, oh, that'll be fine. And so I asked him to go ahead and start. And when he did, I was recording it then. He said, you know, a lot of people, when they think of my father, they think of winning is not the only thing, it's everything. But when I think of my father, I think of what he talked to us about being willing to pay the price. Be willing to get out there and do what the others won't do. Be willing to get out there and run those extra laps when it's cold and rainy and you really rather go home to a warm bath and a nice hot meal. Push yourself in the right direction. And so I think that's the key for us today as well, that we have to be willing to do what the others aren't going to do. One little technique that I use that helps me to set priorities and keep them straight is something that, well, matter of fact, I'm right here at my computer. I use Google Spreadsheets. And every day I use the spreadsheet to put in the tasks that I need to do that day. That way, if I don't complete it one day or it's a lower grade task and I roll it from one day to the next, it's always right there. And I also use a couple of columns. One column is entitled literally the priority, and the other one is rank. Priority is an A, B, or C, and the rank is a 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And so that way, by putting them in there, I have to think, how important is this task based on the needs and the goals and the objectives I have for that day, for that week, for the quarter, the year, or for life. So one of the things I put in there is making sure I take care of my body and my mind and my spirit every day. That's always a first priority. So I find we have to do that. So I use that and it'll help me. And then another little trick I use, I'm working right now on studying and learning Spanish. I want you to know, Stephen, I am at a level 8% according to Duolingo. Not quite up to 9 yet, and I'm way beyond 7, but I'm right there at 8. And so by putting words in Spanish and putting in the different days of the week, like today is Martes because it's Tuesday. So I'm learning Martes. Are you impressed that I know that Tuesday is Martes?
I'm getting a little bit scared that you're going to switch into Spanish and then I'm going to have nothing.
Well, we could try that, but I'm only at the 8%, okay? So I'm up, muchas gracias. I can do that part. That's a nice Florida saying we have down here, muchas gracias. And we use that. But I find that what we want to do is be able to blend those languages in and use those tools on a regular basis. I also studied Russian in undergrad, so I use a few Russian words in there as well. So that way it keeps it active on my mind. And for those that are listening, think about the skills that you want to achieve. They usually come by practice, by doing something over and over, repetition. Repetition is the mother of learning, is something they say in Russian. Повторение мать учения. Repetition is the mother of learning. And so as you repeat something and make it easier for you to do on a regular basis, you're more likely to acquire that new skill and have it as part of what you're doing. So that's something that I do, just to answer your question, that I find helps me on a regular basis, having the mindset to be willing to pay the price, and then pay that price with specific tactical exercises that are easy to implement and that you do on a regular basis.
That was phenomenal. I love how you wrapped that up at the end where you went through all three of those points. And actually, Terry, all three of those points sync up specifically with the notes that I just took. And because you just outlined really a blueprint there from the right mindset and then be willing to pay the price. And then repetition is the mother of learning. I hadn't heard that before, and that is masterful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you bet. I find that really helps me to learn some. Many times I see people will try a task. They try something and it doesn't work. Well, of course, we're human beings. This is the way our brains are structured. When you try it the first time, you don't. And then people come back with, oh, I can't do it. Oh, I'm no good at this or whatever. And they're just filling their minds with negativity. But if instead you go, I don't have that, but I'm not giving up. Let me figure out what I need to do. I might not be able to do it yet. Very important word. Not yet is a way to think. I talk about that in a lot of my presentations, where it's very important to think not yet. It doesn't mean you're jumping up on a chair, pumping your fist in the air going, yes, I can do it. I can run a 2-minute mile. Yeah. No, because your brain's going to look at you and go, sit down and shut up. You can't do it. And besides, if I say, oh, I'm fluent in Spanish, well, I'm not. But I know that if I do the right tasks and I bring in the right people, I read the right books, I watch the right videos, I enroll in the right courses, I get a mentor, a coach, someone who can help me. If others have done it and I can apply myself, I got a much better chance at doing it that way.
Well, here's what I really love about the 3-step recipe that you just gave us. And so all joking aside, I'm sure that many people who are getting into the professional speaking business, maybe they're going to be a new member in NSA and they see you and what you've accomplished. And my guess is there are many who are like, wow, I want to be like Terry. Now, there is no such thing Onward Nation, we talk about this often. There is no such thing as an overnight success. And you have been at this, Terry, for well over 30 years, applying and mastering your craft. And I think that speaks so what's the word I'm looking for? It plugs in so nicely into this 3-step recipe. You've been perfecting it for decades. You've had the right mindset. You've been willing to pay the price through dedication, through long hours, through grueling travel, and through mastering your craft. And then the repetition of doing that over and over and over again has produced this greatness. And so, Onward Nation, there is no such thing as an overnight success. And Terry just gave you a perfect 3-step recipe to prove that. So thank you, Terry.
Oh, you bet. And I would also modify that in a very important way. My buddy Harvey McKay has written a lot of books, is a wonderful man, and he often says, people will say practice makes perfect. It's not quite right. If you keep doing something wrong over and over and over, you don't get perfect. What you want is perfect practice makes perfect. And so in that repetition, the mother of learning, make sure you're doing the repetition of the right activities in the right way. And that's where coaching comes in. That's where reading books, watching videos, and constantly tweaking and perfecting comes into play. So yes, plan that repetition, do it, but repeat in the right way with the right advice and counsel from others.
Harvey's series of shark books are fantastic, and his professional coup of getting the Super Bowl with I think it was the 49ers and maybe the Denver Broncos back in the late 80s to come to Minneapolis, which was just unheard of, getting a Super Bowl in a kind of a cold city, if you will. And I saw him on the sidelines at the Minnesota Vikings game. I think that was Sunday night against the Packers, and just a brilliant man. So that is
Yes.
awesome that the two of you are friends.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a really good guy. A member of the National Speakers Association with me.
Wow. So let's take this momentum that you've given us and take it into daily habits. So Terry, do you have a habit or two you strongly believe contributes to your success?
Yeah, one thing that has helped me a lot for many years is I find that every day we need to do what I call SEM. And I would encourage those of you that are listening to this, if you can write it down, write that down. SEM. The S stands for study. Every day, do something to learn. Read or listen to some good educational material, something that will stretch your mind. Go to a conference or go to a seminar. And today, we're so fortunate to be alive when we are. You just sit down into YouTube and you've got immediately some of the best brains in the world live today or that have left us years ago. We can tap into their knowledge. So the S is for study. The E is for exercise. Make sure that you're taking proper care of your body with good oxygenation, you're getting good strength building, stretching, and do all this, of course, under the care of a professional, a medical professional, so they can make sure you're doing what's right for you in your circumstance. So first of all, it's the study, then the exercise, and the M is meditation. Prayer, meditation, quiet reflection, whatever works for you, do that. I find that there's some enormous benefits and a lot of research and evidence coming out about the benefits of meditation. Just being quiet, concentrating and focusing on your breathing really helps to expand the brain because it's now focusing on one task and you're pushing other thoughts that will naturally come aside. You're thanking them, putting them over here on the side, and focusing your brain. It helps you to remain more calm and more relaxed and more focused in regular life. So the study, exercise, meditation, I find very important to do every day, even if it's a little bit. And yes, I know you're busy. We're all busy. But even for just a few moments, doing something like that, even just get down and, give me 10 push-ups, give me 20 push-ups, something like that. You can do that in less than 60 seconds in most cases. And so get in there and do that. And then another initial that I've added lately is P for produce. As an entrepreneur today, we need to produce quality products, quality information, quality for others. As we do that, then we ensure that we're going to be accepted in the world, and we've kind of earned our place that way. You've got to produce in some capacity wherever you are, whatever you have. Find some way that you can contribute back to the world. And by doing that, coupled with our study, exercise, and meditation, I just find it makes life a whole lot better, a lot more fun, and you live a little bit longer that way too.
Well, and you're giving here again a second framework. You started us off with a 3-step recipe. That was awesome. Now you're following it up with really a structured kind of organize your day and produce great results with the P in the end there with the SEMP. So study, exercise, meditation, and produce Onward Nation. So that is a great framework, a productivity framework, maximum productivity, really keeping your mind and health correct. And then the progression of ongoing learning. Love that. Terry, that is great. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay, so great way to start us off. 3-step recipe, then a 4-step framework. This is great. So now it's going to feel a little bit weird because I want to flip this great momentum and go 180 degrees in the complete opposite direction. And ask you to share that challenging time, Terry, that situation that could have devastated, maybe even ruined your business, but you persisted by making the tough decisions. And now that once painful memory serves more as an invaluable learning experience. Terry, tell us that story.
Well, let me share one that is very, very personal, and it was very emotional at the time. Now I can look back on it and go, oh, okay, it turned out all right. But it was back when I was in the MBA program. I was working on my master's in business administration, and my undergrad degree was radio, TV, newspaper. And so I was familiar with talking on the radio, writing news copy, but I didn't know a thing about business. And I realized I needed to know that, so I went back for the MBA, and they had these certain courses on prerequisites you had to take. And so I was there at Georgia State and taking these courses when there was one thing called accounting. And they said, okay, you got to learn this accounting. And they had these things called T accounts where they got debits and credits. And I thought, okay, why not just use plus and minus? And the professor explained, no, there's a reason, Terry. Here's why. I go, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah. So I went through it, but I didn't do too well. I mean, not at all. Matter of fact, I got a D, as in dummy, in the class. And I thought, ooh, that's not good. But then it was even worse because I got a letter from the school and they said, Terry, we noticed that you got a D in accounting and you cannot stay in the program with that. However, we will give you another chance to go back for it because you must maintain a 3.0, like a B average, in order to do it. And I thought, oh man, I felt devastated. I really was. I was just crushed because here I told everybody, hey, I'm going back for an MBA. I'm going to do this. It's the right thing for me. Cool. And then to find out, oh, gee, I could be thrown out of the program. That wasn't good. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. Okay, I'm going to figure out what I need to do. I had to go back and take the exact same class. I go back and do it. I thought, okay, I'll work hard. I'll get an A next time. I'll really go for it. So I went back and I thought, okay, I'll make it. And I went back, took the same course again. It was a different professor. And both professors were very good. It was just me trying to wrap my brain around it. Well, I took that class and it came back. I got a B, as in barely getting by. Go great for that. They sent me another letter from the school. And they said, Terry, we did some calculations on that. And a B and a D average out to a C. You still aren't there. We're going to give you one more shot.
Oh,
and I
no.
thought, oh, no. Now I'm even more devastated. I think, what am I going to do? And at that moment, I realized I've got to turn this around. I mean, they won't keep me in the program. I had a hard time understanding numbers. And so what I did is the next course I took, I said, okay, you got a B. You can go on to the next one, which was cost accounting. The first one was financial accounting. Well, cost accounting, I had heard, is even tougher. It's really tough. And I thought, oh man, how am I going to do this? And so what I did is I just decided I've got to do whatever it takes. And I started just beating my brain into submission by getting these long, at the time we didn't use computers, but we were using green columnar pads and pencils and things. And I would go through the exercises and I would literally go through those 40 to 50 times, writing it down, putting everything in just right, wad up the paper, throw it away, do it again. And I did that a lot. And then I'd go to the professor and say, I don't understand this part, and have a meeting in their office, when they have the office hours. And I kept hammering away at it. And Stephen, I got an A in that class. I thought, this is great. And then Georgia State sent the letter and they said, you're okay now. Just, don't mess up again or something like that. I don't know exactly their wording, but it wasn't exactly those words. And then I learned how to do it. And I learned the skill just by doing it over and over and over. And I went on in every finance and accounting class after that. I got an A, even though my major in the MBA program was marketing. I thought, I'm just going to do this for the fun of it, just to show that I can do it. And I had fun with it. But then you know what happened after that? After I graduated, finally did get the MBA, I found there was these things called spreadsheets. They were just getting started. And there was a thing called Lotus 123. I said, I'm going to learn how to do this. I taught myself how. There was no one out there teaching the classes like it. Certainly wasn't a YouTube. and I just forced myself to go through it. I'd be at a lab where I could go and get in access at 6 in the morning and stay there throughout the day until 11 at night, hammering away at it, doing a cash flow statement on Lotus 123, trying to figure out how to do it. Well, I did it, and then you know what that led to? I started teaching people how to do it. People said, we need to know how to use these things called spreadsheets. So I started showing people how to do that. And eventually, someone from the Georgia Society of CPAs, a wonderful lady named Katrina Street, was there in class. She said, we're thinking of getting a computer class going. Could you do that and teach CPAs how to do this? I thought, well, yeah, I think I could. So I went in. I knew enough from the CPA, from working with accounting. I'm not a CPA, but I put that in there. And I said, okay, I'm going to learn how to do this. And I started teaching them, and it took off. And then eventually people from 25 other state societies of CPAs and the American Institute of CPAs asked me to be a regular instructor. So I was teaching CPAs regularly, even though I almost got thrown out of the MBA program because I didn't know accounting. And for me, it wasn't thinking how cool I am, but rather I would say this to those listening. Think of that most difficult and challenging thing you've got. If you can put yourself through the mindset, the discipline, the repetition, the right kind of repetition, get the right instruction, like I did from my instructor and some other students too. And I'd say, how do you do this? How do you do that? And be willing to ask lots of dumb questions, you can learn. And you can overcome that and turn it into an advantage, so that I was one of the few people at that time in the country, maybe even in the world, showing people how to use this. And that eventually led to me teaching and doing a lot of international work with Coca-Cola, going countries all over the world, being able to do it for the top president, vice president of a major bank in Atlanta. And they would, all the executives would come up to their training center, and they would tell their offices to hold their calls. They want to learn how to use these things called spreadsheets. And so I realized the key to success, find out what people need, where you can show them how to do something that is useful to them at a valuable price for them, and be willing to pay the price. I did that and launched my career as a speaker. And from there, I've been able to bounce and change. Now, I'm not doing a whole lot of classes right now on Lotus 123. Haven't done them in a long time. The market keeps changing. And that's the thing we've got to learn is to adapt, to change, and use those same skills that we learned before in the new curriculum, the new matters that people are interested in, and be able to continually provide value to the marketplace. So that's where I had that I was really down, thinking, oh, it's all over. I still remember walking there in Georgia. I got it in December, by the way, and it was a cold day in Georgia, real cold, December. And I'm thinking, my life is over. I'm not going to get the MBA. And then that spark came to say, nope, whatever it takes, I'm going to pay the price. I'm going to get in there and make it happen.
Well, and it's phenomenal how you tied that MBA or your MBA story, and specifically even one class in the progression there, and then how that moved and really blossomed and mushroomed for you, and how you tied that back into the 3-step recipe that you started us off with, because you wouldn't have been successful if you didn't have the right mindset. Clearly you did. Clearly you were willing to pay the price and do whatever it took in order to not only pass, but to master the curriculum. And then the repetition of doing that over and over and over again, of speaking and teaching and teaching and speaking, and how that really then built a career for you. Now, would it be fair to say that, because I just want to make sure that I get the timeline right. So would it be fair to say that progression, did that take you then into, hey, I could really be this professional speaker? Is that what then took you into NSA and then building the career that you've built now?
Yeah, eventually it did, because where I learned about the NSA, the National Speakers Association, was when I was in New York City speaking at a conference for CPAs, and another person was there that I had heard of, that I had been following. He did a lot of audio work with Nightingale Conant Corporation out of Chicago, and he was a famous speaker. I had finished the courses that I taught there to the CPAs. He was doing a closing session, and so I walked in there, and before he got started, I walked up, introduced myself, and he said, hi, I'm Jim Cathcart. And Jim Cathcart has since become a very dear friend of mine. And I said, oh, I'm a speaker also. He goes, oh, are you a member of the National Speakers Association? I said, what's that? And he sat down and wrote out the phone number, gave it to me, and said, here, it's something organization of speakers might be able to help you. And that was the moment I was telling you about. I thought, hey, should I get involved in this? And I made a decision to pay the time, the money, and the energy to get involved at the local level, very important. I was in Atlanta, Georgia at that time, the local level and at the national level. And it took a lot of money. It took a lot of money for me at that time to get involved, to go to the conventions, be there, pay the price, the airfare, the lodging. We all know what's involved when you do that. But boy, it made a world of difference for me. And I think every one of us at some point are faced with that question. Is it worth it for me to put in the time, the money, and the energy to do this thing? Now, if I had not done it, okay, I would have saved a few coins at the time, but I would never be where I am today, would not have met the people like Wendy Keller, like you, like others. It just helped me to grow. You've got to be willing to put in the time, the money, and the energy in order to achieve what's right for you.
Every single day, Terry, I'm reminded of how small this world is. And Jim Cathcart is a dear friend. He's been on Onward Nation twice. His most recent episode was 295. Wow, it is a small, small world.
It really is. Jim is just a wonderful guy. I've grown to know him. He's been in my home. I've been in his home for many, many years now that I've known him. And I'm so glad that he encouraged me to join and that I took the steps and did it. So if Jim's listening to this, thank you very much, Jim Cathcart.
So let's take the skills piece even deeper. So what would you consider to be the most critical skill business owners need to master in order to thrive today?
The most critical? Well, I would say probably in today's world, learn how to learn fast. Learn how to learn, because if you can get that skill, that's almost like the genie saying, okay, you got one wish. What would it be? The smart person says, I want more wishes. And so you want to be able to learn how to learn. If you can learn how to read very fast and comprehend, you're going to do well. Learn how to memorize, learn how to get along well with people. Learning those essential skills will be important. One of the things I've so glad I did a few years ago, I went to a course offered by a company called Learning Strategies. They're right up there near you over in Minneapolis. You're not too far from Minneapolis, are you? I think
we're about 2.5 hours away from Minneapolis.
Yeah, they're just over there, and I got a chance to talk with some people there. They offered a course called photo reading. And photo reading is something I had heard about, thought it was really nice. A friend of mine over in England, Amanda Clark, was teaching that, and I took the home study course, liked it, and then I made the decision to go to their advanced photo reading mind retreat. And me being the journalist, I was kind of skeptical of what they talked about. They said they had people that were reading at, not just 1,000 or 2,000 words a minute, but 25, 50, 100,000 words a minute. And I'm going, yeah, right. Folding my arms, doing that journalist, yeah, sure. The jaded journalist that I am. But when I went there and found out, hey, it really does work, and I was doing it, I found that really helped me a lot. Those of you that are listening to this, I would encourage, I'm not getting any money for this, but I would encourage you to just do a Google on photo reading, PHOTO reading, photo reading. And I found that it really helps me in many ways. Matter of fact, as an example, just yesterday, Stephen, I had a client that I'm working with right now. I'm doing a big webinar for a well-known Fortune 50 company tomorrow. And they wanted me to do a particular task and talk about some things. So I just found a book that was out there. I heard about it on another podcast. I thought, ooh, this could be really good. Went over to Amazon, bought the book, downloaded it as a digital book, read the 300-page book and 300 some pages, and brought in examples from that into my program and my presentation so that I can use that. And I thought the ability to learn and read rapidly is really critical for what we do today. So I think if we could say one thing to do, and there's a whole bunch of them, by the way, but the one would be learning how to learn rapidly, memorize, and then learning how to get along well with people will help you no matter what technology comes now or way into the future.
Great mentorship, my friend. In fact, let's go there next and talk about mentorship. But from the perspective of, think about the most influential lesson, Terry, you ever learned from one of your mentors, and then how that lesson helped you become the business owner you are today. What would be that lesson?
Well, I probably would have to go back to one of the first mentors I had was, matter of fact, go cycle back here to the MBA program again. I had a guy named Dr. Stanley. Dr. Stanley was teaching strategic market planning, and it was it was nearing the end of the MBA program. And he talked to us about a theory that he called avoid the mini balls crashing in the air theory of marketing. And I wonder what in the world is that? But what he said is at the time of the Civil War, or down in Atlanta, Georgia, they would call that the War of Northern Aggression that was raging. They had the technology was these little mini balls. You can do a search on that, Google search on it, that they would put in the gun, and it was devastating. At that time, it was advanced technology for what they do, and both sides had it, and they would just launch massive amounts of these at each other, and it created all kinds of havoc and death and destruction and maiming. It was just really an ugly thing. And Dr. Stanley told us, don't get involved in that. If everybody is doing the mini balls crashing in the air, go over on the side. Don't get in the middle of that thinking you're just going to shoot more or shoot faster. Find something different. Find out what everybody else is doing and then do something that's a little different. And Dr. Stanley was right. By the way, after I had him in that class, he went on and wrote some books. His name was Tom Stanley, and he wrote a series of books called The Millionaire Next Door, and put those together. And he'll always be known as Dr. Stanley to me, and we miss him now. He's no longer with us, but he was a marvelous man. That was one lesson that I learned from him. And matter of fact, I had a friend who was at a museum somewhere in Atlanta and actually had in a little glass gel one of those mini balls that they had uncovered from the Battle of Atlanta.
Oh
When
my.
those Yankee soldiers came down and shot and destroyed and ruined Atlanta, they had one of those. And so I've now got that on my shelf. Battle of Atlanta, a genuine mini ball. And it's a reminder to me to never get involved in that mini balls crashing in the air theory of marketing. Find something unique, something different. And I have to thank one of my mentors, Dr. Tom Stanley, for helping me with that.
Wow, what a powerful story. Obviously, a little bit horrific because of the genesis of it, but that really illustrates the point of the story and the lesson, and to not be involved in that. So, okay, I've never heard of this before, and about the mini ball. So, what is it like? And I'll look it up later. But what is it? What does it look like? Like, how big is it?
Oh, it's about, I would estimate, maybe a half inch. The one that I have is gray. It's got some ridges on it, and they would put this in the gun. And because of the way that it was designed, it had enormous force. It had enormous range that they didn't have
Wow.
before. So it was a real technological advancement as far as wartime advancement and killing people. And they pioneered that and then came up with it. And I think it was named for the French person who had developed it before. But it's powerful. And those of you listening, look into that. It's the mini balls crashing in the air was the theory that Tom Stanley had. I don't know if he had any publication on that, but look up mini balls and you'll see the technology of what it was. And for me, it's just a vivid reminder to always do something a little different. When you find everybody's doing something and it looks like, oh, this is the thing to do, everybody's doing it, maybe you want to step back and think about an alternative way to do it that will get more attention and not just be one of the crowd.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So let's take our and shift our focus toward systems, and I know there's no such thing as a magic reset button, but for the sake of discussion, let's just assume that there was one. So if you had a magic reset button, Terry, as it relates to starting your business, what systems would you go back and put into place sooner rather than later, and why?
I think for me, it would be keeping track of people more. I like to do that. I do it some, but I think I would develop a better Rolodex or CRM, some system that you have to keep track of not only their names, addresses, phone numbers, those kind of things, but as we mentioned, Harvey Mackay talks about his Mackay 66, 66 questions of, yes, we know your name, your phone number, et cetera, but also spouse name, children's names, where you went to school, political beliefs, religious beliefs, little tiny things that are important about knowing a person that you get to know gradually and generally as you get to know them. And just take that down and have a place to put it. I'm now using a system online called Nimble, Nimble, and it's a nice little contact management system. There are many of them out there. And I'm not here to say get one over another, but I am here to say get something, some kind of system that will help you to remember important people as you meet them One of the nice things we can do today is we have the way to store it. We can put the information in there very quickly. I use dictation a lot, just talking into the computer, and of course our words can appear on the screen. It's almost magical to me. It's like, wow, they could do this just like Mr. Spock could do before, and just like we saw in Star Trek. And actually, in some of the episodes of Star Trek, people would talk, and on the typewriter it would appear there. So my real Trekkie nerds are out there going, yeah, we know that one. And so Gary Seven came back. Yes, that's it. You got it. And so be able to do that. But now we can do this with contact management. We can do it to keep track of people and important events about important people. And I think that'd probably be the thing that I would do more than anything. Keeping track of that and then publishing more. Writing, doing videos, doing audios today is very easy to do. And so I would encourage my fellow entrepreneurs out there to realize we are all publishers today. Take your area of expertise, find the areas that people are hurting in where they have pain, and give them a solution for that pain, helping them to resolve their problems. Again, you get farther ahead when you help other people solve the problems that they have.
Well, it's super smart. Two really great recommendations of systems there. And when you were describing Harvey's, 66 and the questions and the criteria, that again struck me as, from a story in one of his first books. I think it was Swim with the Sharks, but where he talked about how when he was just essentially kind of on the sales route, if you will, for the envelope company, and you and he. You just are so lockstep because, again, with the right mindset and be willing to pay the price. And because no matter what kind of CRM or content management system you have to, Onward Nation, apply the discipline like Terry does, like Harvey does, of getting the right information into the system. Because garbage in is garbage out. And so, Terry, this is just this is overarching recipe that you've given us of mindset, willing to pay the price, and then repetition. It really stretches across this entire conversation. Well done, my friend. This is just awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just it's what I have found just in my own way of doing things, banging my head against the wall, going, ooh, don't do that anymore, Terry. It hurts. It even bleeds if you do it too much. So stop it. Don't do that, Terry.
Oh my gosh, you just reminded me of the Bob Newhart skit. Did you ever see that? The Bob Newhart skit of Stop It on Saturday Night Live?
No, I didn't see that. I'll have to look that up.
Okay, I'll send you the URL when we're finished. But it's fantastic. You'll love it. You'll laugh hysterically. Well, I know that our time is compressed, and so I will make this my final question. But I sure hope that at some point our schedules can align again, because I would love to have you back for an encore. This is just really, really wonderful. Great discussion, so deep with practical knowledge that Onward Nation business owners can apply right away. So thank you again, my friend. And let me give you a scenario. And imagine you're standing in front of a room of brand new business owners, people just like you when you were starting out. So they're battling their way through the fear, the worry, the doubt, and the struggles to try and find their footing. What would be 2 or 3 strategies, Terry, that you would recommend that they focus on to best ensure success?
Well, I first of all would say I can relate to that. I understand, because we're all there and we wonder, what do we do? And if we're looking at ourselves, we're studying our own navel, we're not going to go very far. Instead, we've got to reach out, and I would say listen. Listen to others. Find out what they are going through. Don't assume that because you think you know what's going on that you're right. Hey, that's real good, Sparky, but you're not the one paying yourself. So hush. Listen to them. You know the old thing, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's the proportion you should use them. It applies. So listen to what they have, then learn valuable skills. Learn skills that are valuable. You might really be the world expert on tsetse flies in Ethiopia in the 15th century. That's real good, real dandy. Yeah, nobody wants that. We don't care. Find something that's really important to others and figure out how to do that. And I would say get out there and produce. The world is really designed so that it honors those who produce for others. Going out and doing whatever you can. And I think you ought to live life doing whatever you want, as long as you embrace what's often called the NAP, the non-aggression principle. Do whatever you want to do, as long as, number 1, you assume responsibility for your action, and number 2, you do not harm another. So get out there and go for it. Live life. Do anything you want. Use your imagination, but don't harm anyone else and produce value for others. As you do that, then you're going to get ahead and it'll help you get you out of that age or that spirit of yuckiness. I think that's a scientific term for it. Yuckiness that you think, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Focus on the needs of others and you'll always do well.
Okay, great conversation, Terry. It has just been a delight to have you here. Before we close out our conversation, is there any final advice you want to share? Anything you think we might have missed? And then please do tell us the best way to connect with you, my friend.
Well, I think the key is, as I said before, it's important to find out where people are hurting. Make that your mission in life, to study that and to find where they are having challenges. And then as you see that, think about what you know and what you can learn, how you can go out there and acquire market valuable skills, not just something for the sake of knowing it. Again, my ridiculous example of tsetse flies in Ethiopia in the 15th century, who cares? What we want is something that people go, ooh, you could teach me that? You could help do that for me? How much would you charge for that? You want to aim toward that and then just keep giving. As you give and help others and you produce value in the world, then it comes back to you. And I think that's the most important thing. And thank you for asking, Stephen. If people want to get in touch with me, I talk about these and many other kinds of messages on my website and on my blog. And you can go there to terrybrock.com and you'll find all about it. And that's Terry. And Brock is spelled the right way, BROCK. So terrybrock.com, you go there and you'll get it. And I would love to hear from you. Let us know that you heard me on Stephen's program and listen to this guy. I've gone back, by the way, those of you that are listening, Steve, you cover your ears for just a moment. I have been listening to his program and Stephen does a great job. These podcasts really can help you a lot and shorten the learning curve for you. So be sure and go back and listen to these podcasts that Stephen puts together. Okay, Stephen, you can uncover your ears now.
Well, there's very kind of you to say. But the reason why our podcast is like that is because we have been blessed with the honor to connect with amazing business owners like yourself. And when Terry and Jim Cathcart and Wendy Keller and others come on our show, you guys are so generous with your expertise. You really open the kimono. Sorry for the bad visual, maybe metaphor there, but you really open it up and let us understand and see your path. And you just share so generously your wisdom and expertise. That's what makes this show awesome. And I am so grateful for you taking the time to be here. We all had the same 86,400 seconds in a day, my friend. And you came onto the show. You were generous with your expertise. You shared of yourself. You took us deep into your path and how that built where you are today. I am so grateful that you did that. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Stephen. An honor to be with you, sir.